Hello, comrades. The most foolish mistake we could possibly make would be to allow the subject races to possess firearms. History shows that all conquerors who have allowed their subject races to carry arms have prepared their own downfall by doing so. Indeed, I would go so far as to say that the supply of arms to the underdogs is a sine qua non for the overthrow of any sovereignty. Now those words, exact words, were spoken by Adolf Hitler. And for anyone who doesn't know what sine qua non means, it means absolutely indispensable or essential. In other words, if you don't disarm the masses, you cannot overthrow their governments. Now here's some more real select quotes from different communist leaders. Mao Zedong once stated, "All political power comes from the barrel of a gun. The Communist Party must command all guns. That way, no guns can ever be used to command the party." Then there's this jewel from the one and only Joseph Stalin, who said this: If the opposition, we the people, disarms, well and good. If it refuses to disarm, we shall disarm it ourselves. Now, are you seeing a socialist communist agenda here? How about this quote from, which it directly ties to the recent California, El Paso, Dayton shootings from the one and only Benito Mussolini. "On the morrow of each conflict, I gave the categorical order to confiscate the largest possible number of weapons of every sort and kind." Now, how about a couple from today's time, recent days here in America? "I don't believe people should be able to own guns." Now, who do you think said that? The one and only Barack Hussein Obama. Now, how about this one? This was when speaking about gun control and guns. "We cannot let a minority of people," and that's what it is, it's a minority of people, "hold a viewpoint that terrorizes the majority of people." Well, if you guessed Hillary Rodham Clinton, you were right on that one. Now, here's the last one for you, and it's regarding our Second Amendment and Constitution. "If the personal freedoms guaranteed by the Constitution inhibit the government's ability to govern the people, we should look to limit those guarantees." Now, that one was rendered by a very left and socialist impeached president, Hillary's very own husband, Bill Clinton. Now, I hope I've made enough of an impact on your heart and mind to instill a desire in you to watch this entire video. This video is not about politics or a political view. This video is about you, the American citizen, regardless of your political party or your platform, but it's rather about your Second Amendment constitutional rights to own and bear arms. That is the only constitutional amendment ever written which uses the language "shall not be infringed." Now, I'd like to define that word, infringed, just to make it clear why our forefather, James Madison, proposed this amendment and used that word. The word infringed, according to the recent current Merriam-Webster dictionary, means to encroach upon in a way that violates law or the rights of another. Now, also a second definition that was used is defeat and frustrate. So, in simple English, your personal right to own and bear arms, it's a law ratified by the government. And since this law was made, there of course have been centuries of arguments of what the Second Amendment really means. Now, I don't have time to go into all those cases in the Supreme Court rulings, except the last and most recent cases, starting with the District of Columbia versus Heller. The man Dick Heller was a licensed special police officer in Washington, D.C., and he challenged the nation's capital's handgun ban. And for the first time, very first time, the Supreme Court ruled, now listen to this, that despite state laws, individuals who were not part of a state militia did, I said that again, they did have the right to bear arms. As part of this ruling, the court wrote, the Second Amendment protects an individual's right to possess a firearm unconnected with service in a militia and to use that arm for traditionally lawful purposes, such as self-defense within the home. Now that's the precedent the United States Supreme Court set in 2008. Now since then it's been challenged. In 2010, McDonald versus the City of Chicago, and in 2016, Catano versus Massachusetts. Now this latter case is real interesting because it actually involved a woman using a stun gun on her abusive boyfriend. And the Supreme Court ruled that stun guns, and indeed all instruments that constitute bearable arms, are protected under the Second Amendment. So there's no argument that American citizens can legally own and bear arms to protect themselves, their property, and their families. It's plain and simple. There's not any argument that can be presented to deny these inalienable rights as a citizen. Now, owing to different states enacting laws that regarding the possession of firearms within their localities, they are actually depriving citizens of their constitutional rights. Now I'm going to read you something real interesting. This is the 14th Amendment, Section 1, and it has a lot of information. I'm going to read it to you. It says, all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. Today, in America, we're seeing a massive initiative by socialists, communists, liberals, the Democratic Party, and the United States Congress to repeal the Second Amendment to our Constitution. Now, that was not a political statement, but rather a statement of true facts. It is the agenda of the Socialist Party operating right here within America to convert your United States of America into a progressive, socialist, communist nation. Now take note of that word progressive. That word really explains itself. It means basically over a long, sustained period of time, which began actually decades ago, and it's been building momentum and funding for at least a century. It means they're in no hurry to acquire their agenda. Today, we're finally beginning to see the threat to our lives and to the freedom that we've celebrated for over 200 years. We need to beware as the Socialist Party is no longer operating incognito, as I like to call it. I want you to ask yourself this. How do terrorists operate? Do they operate out in the open? Or do they wear masks and they fly airplanes into buildings or orchestrate mass killings across the world? Well, we all know they operate incognito in all operations. Only until now have they started to come out of their cloaks and illustriously announce they're socialists. Bernie Sanders comes to mind, and as well as several of the current Democratic candidates. It's no big secret now. They all follow the basic Saul Alinsky Rules for Radicals book. Comrade Alinsky wrote 13 basic rules to promote and instill fascism and communism. And I don't have time to read or cover all of those rules, but I will share one of them with you. It's rule number 8. It reads, keep the pressure on. Think about this. Keep the pressure on. Never let up. Keep trying new things to keep the opposition off balance. And as the opposition masters one approach, hit them from the flank with something new. So, obstruction, collusion, tax returns, and now racism and white supremacy. Does any of that match Alinsky's rule number 8? You think? How can anyone not see that? Our constitutional Second Amendment was written and ratified in 1791 for the purpose of protecting you and I from being controlled by a tyrannical government or an out-of-control government. Now, make no mistake about it. That's what's happening right now, this very minute in Washington, D.C. Our government has become so corrupt and debased that our new Attorney General, William Barr, has been charged with the task to effectively investigate our own government and those branches of government who are sworn to uphold the law and protect we the people. Plain and simple, they are not doing that. The deep state exists, and it's fighting back tooth and nail to protect their dark, evil agendas and secrets. So, the dilemma you and I face is this. Do you trust the government to protect you and your family? Do you trust the government to have your inherent constitutional rights in their best interest? If you're personally assaulted on the street, or if anyone breaks into your home, do you have the right to legally protect yourself and your family? Well, as exhibited in several recent real-time shootings, where the local police, the FBI, the CIA, ICE, ATF, or any local government entity able to save the lives of any of those deceased people? That seems almost like a stupid question, doesn't it? But it's not. If the government removes the guns of this nation's citizens, who will be protecting you? Who will protect your children, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren, and their futures? Will you willingly submit to the government controlling you and not you controlling the government? Will you give up every freedom that you inherited by being a citizen of the United States of America to a tyrannical and controlling government? The real truth is this. If American people are ever disarmed, this country automatically becomes a communist nation, just as those communist leaders stated at the beginning of this video. And be sure, that's exactly what they want. As the Japanese World War II Admiral Yamamoto, he said when he was asked about the reason he attacked Pearl Harbor instead of the United States mainland, he said, "You cannot attack the mainland of the United States. There would be a rifle behind every blade of grass." Now guess what? He was right. He was right. I personally conservatively estimate that there are close to 1 billion guns in American homes. Now, other analysts, they say there's only 400 million. But I want you to think about this. Consider this. With the population of the United States being about 372.2 million people, if only 50% of them own guns, and the average household would only have 4 guns, that would be 800 million guns. Now, this is what I really find interesting, coming from one of the most liberal ragtag publications in America, the Washington Post. They did their own research in 2013, and they said the average guns per household in the United States was 8.1 guns. Now, my estimate's only half of that. Think about that. Now, here's some more things that's really interesting. Certain gun research institutes say there's an estimated 875 million civilian, law enforcement, and military firearms in the whole world. Let that one sink in for a minute. And they also conclude and say that, according to their statistics, 650 million of that 875 million are owned by civilians. Scary, huh? My conclusion is this. Your rights to own and bear arms are inexorable, yet being threatened and challenged by persons who want our freedoms taken away. They want to control you and everything about you, which includes your ability to work, your bank account, your ability to own property, the food you have to eat, and the people who raise and produce that food, and your religious freedom, as well as your right to say this. This isn't right. Not to mention your ability to protect yourselves from them. They want this loving country to no longer be free, and that includes you, regardless of your party. If you're opposed to their infringements of your freedoms and your rights, then you should stand up and make your voice heard today. Now, I urge you to contact both your state and national representatives and senators and stand up for your rights. I'm posting the contact link for the White House above. Make a difference. And don't be silent. If you agree, but you remain silent, this very well could be your last chance to have that freedom. As an ending personal note and comment regarding my own position regarding gun control, I'll leave you with this. Now, I don't know about you, but if you hear that Rikochee's guns have been taken, you'll know one thing's for certain. Rikochee is dead. God bless our president, our first lady, our military fighting women and men, our veterans, every true American patriot watching this video, and God bless the United States of America. And I salute you.